Hello, I'm Professor Rad, and today we're going to talk about signed numbers. So I have a few definitions here, so you can pause and copy these down if you want, and then we'll talk about what they mean. So first, a signed number is a number that has an amount and a direction to it. So this could be something like, when the GPS tells you drive 30 miles north or continue 5 miles south on a particular highway. So they can indicate a direction in that way, like a cardinal direction, but they could also indicate direction like it's 5 degrees below zero or it's 5 degrees above zero, right? Or think about elevation, like where you're located, above sea level or below sea level. They can also be used to indicate financial situations, and actually that's why signed numbers were initially believed to have been used, was to keep track of whether I owe you money, in which case I have a negative amount of money, or if you owe me money, in which case you have a negative amount of money. So speaking of negatives, negative numbers are represented with a minus or a negative sign in front, like -3. And usually they're used to represent debt, so owing people money, or a downward or left-facing direction. Meanwhile, positive numbers are represented with a plus sign in front of them, such as a +3 here. And these are usually used to represent credits, like you make a deposit in the bank would be a positive amount, and upward or right-facing directions. So let's look at a few examples of using signed numbers to represent values from some examples. So here they would like us to represent each value in each story with a positive or a negative number. So example A says, on a day when it was 15 degrees below zero, Henrietta decided not to walk to school, which was 2.6 miles east of her house. So we've got two numbers here. We've got the 15 degrees below zero, so we have the temperature. And we also have her location of school, which is 2.6 miles east of her house. So to represent the 15 degrees Fahrenheit below zero with a signed number, because it's below zero, we're going to represent that with a -15. Walking 2.6 miles east of her house, since that's to the east, generally, when you think about north, south, east, and west, usually east is to the right. So we're going to represent that with a positive number. So we'll write a positive 2.6. Let's look at this next example, which is a little bit more of a financial situation. So it says, after depositing his paycheck of $265.97, Chris made a withdrawal of $120, which he buried in a hole 3 feet deep in his backyard. I don't know what you're up to, Chris, but that seems suspicious. So once again, let's take a look at each of these numbers. So this time we've got $265.97, which Chris has deposited. So that means he put it into his bank account. So this is an accumulation, this is a credit. So this will be a positive 265.97. So one thing that's kind of interesting is that a signed number doesn't have to be a whole number amount. It could be a decimal, like this one here. Then it says Chris made a withdrawal of $120. So that means he put his money in the bank and now he's taking some money out. So when you withdraw money, we're going to use a -120. And in this case, we have a third number because it says he buried this money in a hole 3 feet deep in his backyard. So if we wanted to represent how far in the ground his money is now buried, we could say it is -3 feet in the ground. So here's an example for you to try. Read this little story about Spongy Robert and represent each number with a positive or negative number. In the next video, we'll have a few more definitions about signed numbers. So here we talked about negatives and positives. In the next one, we'll talk about expanding our vocabulary of like whole numbers or natural numbers, things like that. Looking forward to seeing you then, and in the meantime, have a wonderful day.